"Is it not a delight," said the master, "to acquire knowledge and put it into practice? Is it not a pleasure to meet friends coming from afar? Is he not an intelligent gentleman, who is careless alike of being known or unknown? Few who respect their parents and their elders," said Master Yu, "would do anything against their superiors. None who do nothing against their superiors would rise in revolt. An intelligent gentleman should be fundamentally good. A fundamentally good man will behave in the right way. Respect for one's parents and elder brothers is the fundamental quality for a good man." "A good man," said the master, "would rarely say what he does not believe, or pretend to appear better than he is." "I ask myself," said Master Xing, 3 questions every day. In dealing with others, have I not thought of their interests? In making friends, have my deeds not agreed with my words? In teaching students, have I not put into practice what I teach them? In a country of 1,000 war chariots, said the master, the ruler should be respectful in deed and faithful in word, thrifty in expenditure and affectionate towards the people, and tell them to labor at the proper times of the year. A young man, said the master, should be filial at home and respectful abroad, cautious and trustworthy, affectionate towards all and intimate with the good. If he has time to spare when his duties are done, he may use it to learn arts. If a man, said Zi Xia, loves virtue above beauty, does his best to serve his parents, devotes his life to the service of the prince, and keeps his words in making friends, though he is not learned as people may say, I will say he is cultured. An intelligent gentleman, said the master, should not be frivolous, or he would lack solemnity in his behavior and solidity in his learning. He should be truthful and faithful, and befriend his equals. He should not be afraid of admitting and amending his faults. If a ruler regrets the death of his parents, said Master Xing, and never forgets his ancestors, then people would follow him in doing good. Ziyu said to Zigong, when our master comes to a country, he would make inquiry into the way how the state is governed. Is the inquiry made on invitation or on his own initiative? Zigong said, our master makes inquiry in a good way, moderate and temperate, modest and humble. Is it not different from other ways of inquiry? What matters if it is made on invitation or on his own initiative? Judge a man by what he will do to his father who is alive, said the master, and by what he has done to his father who is dead. A son who does not alter his father's ways 3 years after the father's death may be called filial. In performing the rites, said Master Yu, propriety is important. That is the fair way how former kings dealt with matters great or small. But it will not do to observe propriety without the regulation of the rites. If you make a promise, said Master Yu, in accordance with what is right, your promise can be carried out. If you respect a man in accordance with the rites, you will be far from dishonor. If you are not discredited by your kins, you will be reliable. An intelligent gentleman, said the master, eats to live, and not lives to eat. He may dwell in comfort, but not seek comfort in dwelling. He should be prompt in action and cautious in speech. He should seek good company and amend his faults. Such a man may be said to be good at learning. Zigong said, what do you think of a poor man who does not flatter and a rich man who does not swagger? The master said, not bad, but not so good as a poor man who is cheerful and a rich man who is respectful. Zigong said, are such men like polished ivory and stone and jade refined, as said in the book of poetry? The master said, my dear Zigong, now I may begin to talk with you about poetry. For when I told you about the past, you can anticipate the future. I care less, said the master, to be understood and recognized by other people than to understand and recognize others. A prince, said the master, should rule his state by virtue as the polar star which keeps its place among the stars turning around it. There are 300 poems in the book of poetry, said the master. In a word, there is nothing improper. If the people are governed by laws, said the master, and order is kept by punishment, they would be obedient but not conscientious. If they are led by virtue and order is kept by the rights, they would be conscientious and act in agreement with what is right. At 15, said the master, I was fond of learning. At 30, I was established. At 40, I did not waver. At 50, I knew my sacred mission. At 60, I had a discerning ear. At 70, I could do what I would without going beyond what is right. When Mengzi asked about filial duty, the master said, do nothing in disagreement with the rights. When Fanchi was driving his carriage for him, the master told him how he answered the question of Mengzi. When Fanchi asked for an explanation, the master said, parents should be served in agreement with the rights while alive. When dead, they should be buried and the sacrifice be offered in agreement with the rights. When the son of Mengzi asked about filial duty, the master said, do not let your parents worry about their health. When Ziyu asked about filial duty, the master said, filial sons of today only take care their parents are well fed. But even dogs and horses are well fed now. What is the difference if their parents are fed without reverence? When Zixia asked about filial duty, the master said, it is difficult to appear happy in trouble. If the young serve the old and feed them with wine and food before themselves, but with troubled looks, could they be called filial sons? When I talked with Yan Hui all day long, said the master, he never disagreed with me as if he were stupid. When he retired to do his work all by himself, I found nothing in disagreement with my teaching. Hui is not stupid at all. See what a man does, said the master, examine why he has done so, and observe whether he is content. Can his character remain hidden? Can it remain hidden? One who can learn something new while reviewing what he has learned, said the master, is fit to be a teacher. An intelligent gentleman, said the master, is not a mere implement. When Zigong asked about the intelligent gentleman, the master said, one whose deeds precede his words. An intelligent gentleman, said the master, cares for the whole more than for the parts, while an uncultured man cares for the parts rather than for the whole. To learn without thinking, said the master, risks to be blind, while to think without learning risks to be impractical. To antagonize a different view, said the master, would reveal one's own weakness. Shall I teach you what knowledge is? Said the master to Zilu, to admit what you know and what you do not know, that is knowledge. When Zizhang asked about official emolument, the master said, hear much and put aside what is doubtful, and be cautious in speaking of the rest, then you would be less to blame. See much and put aside what is risky, and be cautious in doing the rest, then you would regret the less. If your words are seldom blamed and your deeds seldom regretful, then you need not worry about official emolument. When Duke Ai asked how to win the support of the people, the master replied, if honest men are employed and dishonest ones discarded, then people will support you. If dishonest men replace the honest, you will lose the support of the people. When Ji Kongzi asked how the people could be induced to be respectful and faithful, the master replied, "If you maintain dignity, people will respect you. If you are dutiful towards your parents and kind towards all, they will have faith in you. If the worthy are employed and the incompetent are trained, they will be induced to be respectful and faithful." When asked why he is not occupied with state affairs, Confucius answered, "It is said in the book of history about filial duty that respect for parents and fraternity towards brothers are family affairs. If these are practiced in the state towards the old and the young, it is state affair. Thus engaged in family affairs, am I not occupied with state affairs too? How can an untrustworthy man be employed?" said the master. "Could a large cart go without a yoke bar or a small cart without a crossbar?" When Zizhang asked if the ritual systems of 10 generations to come could be foreseen, the master said, "The Yin dynasty followed and modified the ritual system of the Xia, and its modified system was known. The Zhou dynasty followed and altered the ritual system of the Yin, and its altered system is also known. So we may predict the system of the successors of the Zhou can be foreseen even 100 generations later." To worship other ancestors than one's own, said the master, reveals pretensions. Not to right the wrong shows the lack of courage. Confucius said of the Lord of Ji family, "The royal dance of 8 teams are performed in his courtyard. If this can be tolerated, what cannot?" At the end of the 3 families' sacrifice, King Wu's prayer to King Wen was sung. The princes at the side of the king dignified. The master said, "What has the royal prayer to do with the 3 families? How could it be sung in their hall?" "If a man is not good," said the master, "what is the use for him to perform the rites? If a man is not good, what is the use for him to perform music?" Lin Fang asked about the fundamental of the rites. "A significant question," said the master. "In ritual performance, it would be better to be thrift than lavish. In morning service, it would be better to be deep in grief than minute in observance. The barbarian tribe with a sovereign," said the master, "is not so good as a civilized state without one." The Lord of Ji family was going to perform the royal ceremony of sacrifice to Mount Tai. The master asked Ran Yu if he could prevent it, and Ran Yu answered he could not. Then the master said, "Alas! Does Mount Tai not know what Lin Fang does about the rites? Could it accept the royal sacrifice offered not by a prince but by a lord?" "Cultured men do not contest," said the master. "Even in archery, the archers bow and make way for each other before the contest and drink after it. Such is the rivalry between cultured men." Xixia asked about the meaning of the following verse. Dark on white her speaking eyes, her cheeks with smiles and dimos glow. Colored designs are made on plain silk. The master said colors should be put on the plain ground. Xixia asked if the rites should be performed on some ground. The master said, "It is Xixia who understands me. Now I have someone with whom to talk about poetry." "The rites of the Xia dynasty," said the master, "can be described, but I do not rely on the evidence supplied by its descendants of Qi. The rites of the Yin dynasty can be described, but I do not rely on the evidence supplied by its descendants of Song. For there are no sufficient documents. Otherwise, the rites of Qi and Song can be described." "At the ancestral sacrificial service of the Duke of Lu," said the master, "I would not attend after the libation, for the royal ceremony should not be performed by a duke." Asked about the imperial sacrifice, the master said, "I do not know it. Those who know it may see an empire as clearly as his palm. Sacrifice to the dead as if they were living, and to the divinities as if they were present. If I do not think they are present, said the master, I had better not sacrifice at all. Wan Sunjia asked if it would be better to pray to home divinities than to those in heaven. No, said the master, if you sin against heaven, what is the use of praying? The Zhou dynasty, said the master, has profited from the two preceding dynasties. What a wealth of culture it has accumulated! I would rather follow the Zhou system. When the master entered the grand temple, he asked about everything there. Someone remarked, "Who would say the son of a villager from Zhou knows the rites?" When he entered the grand temple, he asked about everything. Hearing of this, the master said, "This is just a part of the rites." In archery, said the master, the principal thing is to hit, not to pierce through. Such is the way of the ancients. For archers are not equal in strength. Zigong wanted to do away with the sacrificial sheep on the first day of each moon. The master said, "Zigong, you care for a sheep while I care for the rites." One who serves his prince nowadays in strict accordance with the rites, said the master, would be considered as a sycophant. When Duke Ding asked how a prince should employ his ministers and how ministers should serve their prince, Confucius replied, "The prince should employ his ministers in accordance with the rites, and the ministers should be devoted to the prince." Cooing and wooing, the first song in the book of poetry, said the master, tells us pleasure and grief should not go to excess. When Duke Ai asked Zaiwa what symbol was used in the altar, Zaiwa replied, "The Xia rulers used the pine, the Yin rulers used the cypress, and the Zhou rulers used the chestnut, which means to chase the people off their nut." Hearing of this, the master said, "What is done cannot be undone. What is accomplished need not be criticized. What is bygone need not be blamed." The master said, Guanzhong was not a great minister. When asked if Guanzhong was frugal, the master said, Guanzhong had 3 granaries while his official duties were not performed. How could he be considered frugal? When asked if Guanzhong knew the rites, the master said, "Only the prince may build a wall to screen the gate of his mansion, but Guanzhong had one before his. Only the prince may use a stand for cups to entertain his guests, but Guanzhong used one. If he knew the rites, who does not?" Talking about music with the great master of the state of Lu, the master said, "It is not difficult to perform music. In the beginning all the musical instruments should be played in high spirit. Then the music should be harmonious, distinct and flowing without breaking up to the end." The guardian of the border Adi asked to be presented to the master, saying, "When a man of renown has come here, I have never been denied an interview." A follower of the master presented him. After the interview, he said to 2 or 3 of the followers, "Why are you distressed at your master's unemployment? The world has gone out of the right way for long. Heaven would employ your master as an alarm bell." The master said of the inauguration music as perfectly beautiful and perfectly good, and the martial dance as perfectly beautiful but not perfectly good. High office filled without generosity, said the master, ceremony performed without reverence, and mourning observed without grief,